We get asked all the time, what is the best signal processor for electric violin? And there's no best. There's only best for you and your unique situation within your budget. I will say that almost regardless of your situation, there's probably a Helix family product that's going to be in your top 2 or 3 choices. They've got so many options, and today we're going to dig into those products, what the differences are between them, and why one of them might be the right thing for you. There aren't really any violin processors out there. There's probably 1,000 electric guitarists for every electric violinist, maybe more. And companies are just going to go where the numbers are. The good news is that if you know how electric guitars work, then you can know how to make their gear work for you. If you are new to the world of amplified violin and effects and all that stuff, you're probably going to want to watch the next few minutes where I do some explaining of how we get these different effects. If you're fairly experienced, you might want to skip ahead using the index feature down here and just get to where I'm comparing the different products. The way guitar rigs work is that the guitar player will plug their instrument into a pedal board where they've got some effects like flanger or delay or wah, and then they plug the output of that pedal board into their amplifier. We put a mic on the front of that amp, and then it goes to the sound mixing board, which goes out to the PA, and what you're hearing is that mic'd amplifier with the effects running through it. So there's kind of 2 classes of multi-effects units, the ones that want to take the place of the pedal board or add to it, and the ones that want to replace the pedal board and the amplifier. So what is the purpose of that amp, and how would we as violinists want to use that? Well, there are several reasons that guitar players use amps. The first one is for tone coloration. Every amp, the circuits and the tubes and the speakers are going to color your sound in a different way. They're going to add to the tone of your instrument in a way that hopefully is pleasing to you and your audience. But again, each one is going to sound different. There's EQ control on these amps. They can control highs, mids, lows, and sometimes presence, or what they'll call tone. And it's amplification. It's going to make you louder. Electric guitars and electric violins just aren't loud enough to be performed with without amplification, so that's why we have an amp. There are a number of different amps that we might be interested in as electric string players. The first and maybe most obvious is the acoustic guitar amp. Acoustic guitars tend to use piezo pickups like most electric string instruments, and that's going to be helpful for us because they're using high impedance pickups. The amp is designed to receive those. Also, since most electric string players don't want a lot of distortion in their sound, these acoustic guitar amps are designed to not have distortion in them, and for a lot of string players, that's a plus. We might be looking at electric guitar amps. Say we do want that distortion. Maybe we want a brighter, crisper, kind of more edgy sound, and that's what you're going to get with an electric guitar amp. There are different varieties of electric guitar amps. There's clean amps, there's boutique amps, there's chime amps, there's all the different kinds, and you're kind of going to have to explore those to decide which one suits you the best. Another common choice for electric string players is a bass amp, and a lot of people might be thinking, well, isn't that just going to accentuate low frequencies? No. The thing is about bass guitars, yes, they do have a lot of low frequencies. They also have high frequencies. There's fret noise and finger noise and all these types of things that bass guitars make that are going to be in the same frequency range that electric violinists use. So don't sleep on bass amps if you are an electric violinist, violist, cellist. It might be exactly the thing you want. And then the thing that I've used for most of my career is what we would call a fur or a flat response full range speaker, essentially like a mini PA system. We can get the sound we want, the tone we want from the pedals in our pedal board, and then this fur speaker is designed to just take that signal and make it louder. There's no such thing as a perfect amplifier. They're not perfectly linear. That doesn't really exist. But in theory, these fur speakers are essentially flat and full range speakers that are just going to take your sound and make it louder. Now, why would somebody want to use an amp simulator instead of an amp? A lot of players want the tone coloration that comes from using an amp, but they don't want to deal with the problems of having a physical amp. Like, they're heavy, they're big, they're loud, and if you buy an amp, well, you have that amp. So if you'd want a different sound later on in the night, well, you're kind of out of luck. You've got that amp. An amp sim also allows you to have multiple amps throughout the course of the night. If you want to have sort of a Fender Twin sound on one song and a Marshall stack on the other, you can do that without having to buy and cart multiple amps with you. Also with guitar amps, the tone of that amp tends to be a function of the volume of that amp. The louder they get, the different they sound. They respond differently at high volumes than they do at low volumes. And if the tone you want is a high volume tone and you're in a venue that doesn't allow you to be at 120 decibels, that's kind of a problem. An amp sim allows you to dime that thing out, but still have full control over the volume of the sound that's coming out of your speakers. So Line6 has this Helix family of products. It is a huge line of products. There's probably one in there that's going to be best for you and your situation, but man, it's a little intimidating to look at all of these different units. How do I know which one is right for me? So here's a list of the Helix products. There's the Helix Floor, the LT, there's a Stomp XL and a Stomp, there's an HX FX, there's an HX1, and then sort of the cousin to this whole thing are the Pod products. There's a PODGo and a Pod Express. We will talk about all these. So some of these are very, very similar products that are packaged just slightly differently. The Floor and the LT are very, very similar. The Stomp and the Stomp XL, very similar. The HX FX is just the effects that come. There's no amp modeling. And then the HX1 has all of the effects in it, but you can just use one at a time. The Pod family has all the same amp models and the effects as the Helix, but it's a simpler format. It's a little less flexible, but it's also less intimidating and it's less expensive. So let's start with the big dog. This is the Helix Floor. This is an HX Stomp. This is a Stomp XL, extra large. This is an HX1. And this is a really new product to us. This is the Pod Express. The Helix Floor, the Big Daddy, has 4 complete signal paths that run inside there that can be used separately. They can be linked together. There are 4 effects sends and returns. There are multiple inputs. There are the ability to add extra expression pedals, to add extra stomp pedals. This thing has all kinds of functionality. You can run multiple amps simultaneously. You can run multiple cabinets off of each amp. You can put effects between the amp and the cabinet, not something you can really do in real life. You can put stomp boxes after the cabinet. You could put the amp first. You could put the cabinet first. You can do all kinds of things with this that you cannot do in real life. It is very complex, it is very flexible, it is very powerful, and it can be a little intimidating if this is your first try. The Helix LT is very similar to the Helix. There are a couple fewer I/O options, input-output options. There are fewer scribble strips on the top of the thing, which are these LCD screens. And it's going to cost a little less money. So if you're in a high danger situation, I was touring with a party band for several years. I wanted the functionality of the Helix, but I wanted to have a little bit less money at risk of having somebody drunk fall on it and break it. As an aside, Helix Native is a software product that is a plug-in for your DAW that has the exact same functionality as the Helix Floor. So if you're using this in the studio, you can do reamping, you can develop tones in the studio that you can move directly to your Helix Floor. It's a really, really nice product. And if you own a Helix Floor, you can get a discount on Helix Native. The HX Stomp and the Stomp XL have the same brain inside them. Instead of having 4 separate signal paths through the unit, there is one path through the unit. It's a little less flexibility. There's a lot less DSP, meaning processing power, and you can max the thing out a little bit easier than you can the Helix, but it is a lot smaller. If you tend to run fairly simple signal paths, the HX Stomp or the Stomp XL are probably going to be the right product for you. The only difference between the Stomp and the Stomp XL is the number of foot switches on there. If you've got a fairly simple setup, you don't have to do a lot of tap dancing during the night, the Stomp's probably the way to go. If you do a lot of switching between effects and amps and presets and all that, the Stomp XL is probably going to be more convenient for you. As a reminder, all the effects and all the amp models are the same between the HX units and the Helix. The Helix just is a lot more powerful and gives you some more input-output options. One of the great things about the Helix family of products is that there are a ton of effects built into this thing. Hundreds and hundreds of different Stomp boxes that have been modeled and placed inside this box. The HX1 gives you access to all of those effects, but you can only use one at a time. Now you can set it up with different presets and you can change which effect you're using pretty easily. So if you want a Klon Centaur on one song and you want a Bucket Brigade delay on the next, or you want some big Searchlights reverb on the next song, that's easy to do, but you can only use one of those effects at a time. It's very inexpensive, it's pretty small, it fits on a pedal board, and if you already have a fairly complete pedal board, this thing's going to be a great addition. The Pod Express takes some of the most popular amp models, some of the most popular effects, and puts them in a really compact pedal. With the Pod Express, you don't have to worry about routing, you don't have to worry about which pedal's feeding into which, it handles all that for you. You don't have that up-close, granular level of control over each one of these effects in every parameter of that effect like you would on the Helix or the HX, but this is going to be a lot simpler, a lot more manageable, especially for somebody who's just kind of getting started with effects. Or if you're the kind of person who doesn't get excited about trying to tweak every last little parameter on an effect, oh my god, I just want to play, this might be right for you. All that to say, this is an incredibly impressive family of products. Probably one of these is going to fit your needs better than the other ones do. And, well, we carry almost all of them. The PODGo is kind of a compromise product between the Helix Floor and the Pod Express. You have access to tons of amp models, tons of effects, but you don't have to worry about all the routing, and you don't have to worry about the cost. If you're looking for something that has great sounds like the Helix Floor, but you don't want to spend quite that much money and you don't feel like you want to do a lot of computer programming, the PODGo might be the right product for you. The Helix Floor, the LT, and the PODGo all have built-in expression pedals. The other ones have a jack that allows you to add a separate expression pedal if you want to. The Helix Floor and LT both have XLR outputs, the rest have 1/4-inch outputs, but all of them are in stereo because a ton of these effects are stereo effects. I set all of my presets up in stereo, and then if I happen to be in a mono situation, you just plug into the left output and it automatically sums everything to mono. It's really handy. One of my favorite features about this family of products is that Line6 is constantly improving their product. They do regular updates where you get free amps, free cabs, free effects, and free features that just download to your unit, and it's like you've got a whole new toy. These products are very reliable. They have a great reputation in the business, but if you do have a problem, you just file a support ticket on their website. They have great customer service, and they do a really fantastic job of taking care of people. So whether you're a beginner or a very advanced effects person, if you've got sort of simple needs or you want to add something to an existing system, you want to build a system around this, there is probably something in the Helix or Pod family that's going to be right for you. Because these are computers and your presets are software, you can back it up to your laptop. I've had situations where I have had a company backline a Helix for me. I brought my presets on my laptop, loaded them onto their unit at their place, and then I didn't have to carry mine with me. Also, you can share your presets with other people. There's even a marketplace at Line6 where people sell custom presets. I even have a pack of violin-specific presets that I sell on my website. There are 3 sets. There's one for the Helix Floor and LT, for the HX Stomp and Stomp XL, and for the PODGo.